Welcome to Course Elevate. Today we are covering some crucial Power App interview questions that can help you to land your next job. Let's start our interview questions. Our first question is, what is Power Apps? Power App is a platform as a service. So this means it is a complete environment in the cloud where developer can develop and deploy the application in the cloud itself. So it's a low-code platform. So it is a rapid application development platform. That means you can build application very fast with either low code or no code. The third is it's a versatile. User can create apps which can run on mobiles, tablet and desktop. The next is cross-platform. So it enables you to create mobile apps that runs on different operating systems such as Windows, iOS, and Android. Power App provides a visual development environment that uses a drag and drop interface. Let's see this drag and drop interface in action. You can see here the user has added one button and one text box just by doing drag and drop. If you have mentioned platform as a service, expect the follow-up question in the interview like, what is platform as a service? Then you must know about it. Let's cover this in next question. Our next question is, what is platform as a service? Platform as a service is a complete environment in the cloud where user can do development and deployment in the cloud itself. So in past, everything like hardware, software, infrastructure is provided by service provider for developing, running and managing the application. So in case of Power Apps, you don't need to install anything and you can directly start working on this environment. The next question is, what is the difference between IaaS, PaaS and SaaS? So IaaS stands for Infrastructure as a Service. So this is used by network architect. So here the service provider maintains and updates the backend infrastructure such as server, storage, networking and virtualization, which means you manage everything else including operating system, middleware, data and applications. The example of IaaS is AWS, Microsoft Azure and Google Cloud. The next is PaaS, which stands for Platform as a Service. So it is used by the developers to build the application. So here infrastructure along with the platform is maintained by the service provider. So good example is Power Apps. Then we have Software as a Service, which is SaaS. So it is used by end users. So here infrastructure, platform and applications is maintained by the service provider. The best example is Google Docs, Dropbox or very popular one is Netflix. So these all are software as a service. Our next question is, which programming language is used by Power Apps? So PowerFX is used as a programming language in Power Apps. It's a low-code language and is strongly typed and declarative language. So PowerX, however, is inspired by Excel, and in Excel, we don't just write expressions, we write formulas for how to calculate a specific cell value. So here we have written the formula for this input text field. The next question is, what is the difference between a model-driven app and a canvas app? So let's first discuss about what is model-driven app. So as name suggests, it is basically driven by a model which is database. So this app is also called as data-driven app. So this app allows you to quickly add components, dashboard, charts, forms and business processes in your app. So following the snapshot of the model-driven app. So where this is the account information form with business process flow. So this business process flow contains 4 stages: identify, qualify, develops, and accounts won or lost. Now let's see the difference between Canvas app and model-driven apps. So in Canvas app, you get a blank screen where you can add components on the screen to build your UI using drag and drop. So whereas in model-driven app, so most of the components in the app are directly built based on the entity you choose from Dataverse. So here components are built based on the data chosen. So in Canvas app, you have complete UI control. So as per its name, you get a blank canvas where you can design your app as per your imagination and creativity. So whereas in model-driven app, you have a limited amount of UI customization. So because this is data-driven app, you can choose Microsoft Dataverse and many other data sources as a background using connectors. That means you can connect Power Apps with many different data sources like SharePoint, Azure SQL, Dataverse, Dynamics 365, and many more. Whereas in model-driven app, only Dataverse is used as a backend data source. So there is no other option available. So this is because model-driven apps are tightly integrated with Dynamics 365. The next difference is migration. So migration becomes comparatively difficult in Canvas app because of different data sources. For example, so if we have used Azure SQL or SharePoint as database, then for migration, we need to create additional environment variables for migration between dev, QA, and production environment. So whereas in model-driven app, migration is comparatively easy as it has only Dataverse as a backend. So next is the timing. So time of the completion of Canvas app depends on the complexity of the project. So whereas in model-driven app can be rapidly built. The next difference is the coding. So here Microsoft Power Effects is used for coding, but in model-driven app, there is no need to write the code. So in case of customization is done, so JavaScript is used for the customization. The next difference is responsiveness. So Canvas app is not responsive by default. You can create Canvas app either in portrait or landscape mode. So to make it responsive, you need to put additional effort, adding container controls and relative positioning of controls, and that will be an additional overhead. Whereas in model-driven app, so this is responsive by default. So unlike Canvas app, model-driven app renders itself to match the device resolution. The next difference is version control. So in Canvas app, version control is supported, which means when you publish the app, a new version is created. In case you want to restore back to old version, that you can do easily with restore option. Whereas in model-driven app, version control is not supported. Once you create, it can only be modified by the subsequent changes or deployments. So these all are the differences between Canvas app and model-driven app. Our next question is, define common data service and why should we use them? CDS is now known as Dataverse. To understand Dataverse, let's first talk about data. The entire Power Platform service is centered around data. With Power Apps, we can perform CRUD operations. With Power BI, we can analyze data. With Power Automate, we can create workflows, automation around data. With Virtual Agent, we can create chatbots which can interact with data. So in respect to Power Platform, data comes in two ways: external data and internal data. External data, which is in the form of connectors. So benefits of connectors are, it's easy to connect and there are huge opportunity to connect various available data sources. Example, SharePoint, SQL Server, Google Drive, and many more. The second one is internal data. So this data can also be internal to Power Platform. And the internal data service that the Power App provide is known as Microsoft Dataverse. Now the question comes up, why to use Dataverse? First, it is smart and secure. It's easily structure a variety of data and business logic to support interconnected applications. With Dataverse, we can store data in the cloud in the form of tables. We can build Power Apps, workflows, chatbots, dashboards, all against data which is stored in Dataverse. We can also add business rules, validations, and also role-based securities. Let's see the comparison chart for external connector and Dataverse. So Canvas app, we can build both with connectors and with Dataverse. Model-driven apps and portals can be built only with Dataverse. Power Automate works for both. AI Builder works only with Dataverse. Power BI and Power Virtual Agent can connect with both the options. Dataverse can also be used for Microsoft Teams. The next question is, can we access local data sources in Power Apps, or can we connect Power Apps with local SQL Server, or can we connect with local SQL Server using Power Apps? The answer is yes. We can easily connect to the local network data sources by the use of on-premise data gateway. The on-premise data gateway acts as a bridge to provide quick and secure data transfer between on-premise data, the data that is not in the cloud, and several Microsoft Cloud services such as Power Apps, Power Automate, and Power BI, and Azure Logic Apps. So by using a gateway, data source stays locally, but still these cloud services can be used. So you can download the on-premise data gateway from Microsoft site as seen below. If you click on download, this on-premise data gateway executable file will be downloaded locally. Just install it on your machine to use on-premise data gateway. In the next section, we will learn step-by-step tutorial to connect on-premise data gateway. The next question is, how can error handling be implemented in Power Apps? So we have three error handling functions in Power Apps: if error, is blank, or error. So Canvas app introduced these functions to manage errors and display the appropriate message. So but before that, we need to enable formula level error management. So to enable formula level error management, follow these steps. So within the Power App application, click on these three dots and go to settings, and under settings, go to upcoming feature section. If you see here, this one is upcoming features under setting, and there you will go to the formula level error management. Just make sure this formula level error management should be turned on. If error, here is the syntax of if error. So this formula returns 0 if the value of x is 0. If x is not 0, then 1 by x is calculated and result is returned. So therefore, divide by 0 is handled by if error function. The next function is error function. So here is the syntax of is error. In this example, if 1 by x produces an error such as division by 0, the is error function returns true and the formula displays the message error occurred while calculating. In second scenario, if 1 by x does not produce an error, the formula evaluates 1 by x. So this allows you to handle potential error gracefully within your Power Apps formulas. The next function is blank or error. Here is the syntax. In above example, as x is 0, so 1 by x will result to divide by 0 error. So output will be true because of the present error. The next question is, what is a Power App collection? A Power App collection is a way to store and manage data within your app. Collections are like temporary tables or lists that holds data in memory while your app is running. We can implement collections with the help of three functions: collect, clear, and clear collect. Let's see these functions one by one. First is collect function. Here is the syntax of collect function. Collect, within bracket you have collection name and item. So here collection name is the name of your collection you want to add data to, and item is the record or data you want to add to that collection. So in this example, I have created an item with two columns, name and age, and provided value of these two records, and the name of the collection is my collection. The next function is clear function. So this function clears all the records from a collection named my collection. So this example will clear all the records from a collection named my collection. The next function is clear collect. The clear collect function in Power App is used to clear the contents of a collection first and then populates it with the new data. So it is essentially a combination of the clear function and collect function. Syntax of the clear collect function is similar to collect function. So here we have clear collect function, and within this function we have the collection name, and here we have the item property of this collection, and here we have the data of this collection. So next is we will discuss the data limitation of the collection. So by default you can store maximum of 500 records in a collection, but you can increase it to maximum of 2000. That you can do in the settings tab. So under general section you will find data row limit, and here you can write maximum of 2000 as a data row limit of a collection. The next question is, what is Power App platform environment and how do you create different user environments in Power Apps? As per Microsoft, a Power Platform environment is a space to store, manage, and share your organization business data, apps, and chatbots and flows. It also serves as a container to separate apps that might have different roles, security requirements, or target audience. This is a definition of Power Platform environment. That means you work in a dev environment, test your application in QA environment, and finally deploy your app in production environment. Each type of environment may have different role, security requirements, and target audiences. Let's see how to create an environment. For that, go to make.powerapps.com. Here in the setting icon, which is present in the top right corner, just click on that and go to the admin center. Click on environment. All the environments which are present in Power Platform admin center. So you can also create new environment here as per your requirement. The next question is, how many types of variables are there in Power Apps? The answer is, there are three types of variables in Power Apps: local variable, global variable, and collections. Let's first see the local variable. A local variable is a single row variable that lives exclusive on a single screen. As a result, you won't be able to use this variable across your Power Apps. Let's see the syntax. So this variable is declared by function update context, and within that you pass the variable name and its value. So in this example, mSupplier save button is the name of the variable and update is the value of this variable. The next type of variable is global variable. A global variable is a single row variable that exists throughout all of your Power Apps and may be used on any screen. Let's see the syntax of global variable. So we can declare global variable with the help of set function. So within set function, you just write variable name and its value. So in this example, where show delete popup is a variable and true is its value. The third type of variable is collection. So collections are variable containing tabular form of data. You may use collections in all of your Power Apps. The syntax for collection is, as we discussed earlier, we have collect function, and within collect function, we provide the name of the collection and its underlying data. So in this example, so product list is the name of the collection and it contains table with two columns, which are product column and color column. The next question is, what is the difference between Power Apps and Logic Apps? A Logic App is a cloud-based service provided by Microsoft Azure that enables users to automate workflows and integrate various systems, services, and applications. So Azure Logic Apps are completely different than Power Apps. Logic Apps are mostly similar to Power Automate as they connect with different Microsoft Azure services. So here are some of the major key differences between Power Apps and Logic Apps. With Power Apps, you can create custom business applications, whereas Logic Apps are used to automate business processes or integrations. In Power Apps, you have drag and drop UI design, whereas Visual Designer is used for workflow automation. As an app development, you can either use Canvas app or model driven app, whereas in Logic Apps, you let's organize workflows without needing to write a lot of code. Power Apps provide features to connect with various data sources and services, whereas Logic Apps, you can connect it with various services and systems. Power Apps can integrate with Microsoft 365 and Dynamics 365, whereas Logic Apps connects with Azure services or SaaS-based apps. So Power Apps can be triggered by user interactions or data events, whereas this can be triggered either by file upload or email. That means you can trigger Power Apps on button click, whereas Logic Apps can be triggered for certain events, for example, file upload or some insert happens in any of SharePoint list. So the next is the who uses the Power Apps. So either business users or developers can use the Power Apps, whereas Logic Apps are used only by developers and IT professionals. So they are not used by the end users. The next question is, describe save data, load data, and clear data functions in Power Apps. First is save data function. It saves a collection under a given name for later use. So as shown in picture, collection is saved with the name of offline collection. The next function is load data function. So it reloads a previously saved collection by its name. So here the source should be same, as this function cannot be used to load a collection from a different data source. So this function load data, so it accepts the collection name which we saved earlier with the name of offline collection. The next function is clear data function. So clear data function clears the storage under a specific name, or it clears all the storage associated with the app if no name is provided as an argument. So let's see its syntax. So clear data offline collection. So it will clear the saved offline collection, and the clear data without any parameter. So it clears all the storage associated with this app. Data stored by other app is not affected. The next question is, what is the difference between lookup and filter function? The lookup function finds the first element in a table that matches a given formula. Lookup can be used to locate a single record that meets one or more criteria. Syntax of lookup is table name, then formula. So here we have lookup our previous collection and set one condition with an age greater than 1. We can see that we got first valid record once we applied lookup function. Also keep in mind that its return data type is record. Let's see the filter function. The filter function is used to identify records in a table that meet formula criteria. Here is the syntax: filter, then table name, which is our data source, and then our formula. You can see here the filter function returns table type, which may have one or more than one record. So let's summarize the difference between lookup and filter function. The first difference is based on the purpose. So lookup, it returns a single record, whereas filter can return multiple records. The next is the syntax. So here we will use the lookup function, whereas in filter we will use the filter function. The third one is the return value. So it returns a single record that matches the condition, whereas filter returns a table of records that may have one record or more than one record, which matches the condition. So as it returns the single record, so obviously lookup is faster, whereas filter may be slower because of the large data set. The next difference is based on the usefulness. So it's idle when you need to retrieve a single record based on some specific condition, whereas filter, it's useful for retrieving multiple records based on the various criteria. The next question is, what are Power App limitations? So in Power Apps, you can retrieve only 500 items by default, and it can extend up to maximum of 2000. So this is basically the limitation of collections which we are using in the Power Apps. The next limitation is in Canvas app. So most probably one developer can work at a time. So though there is a provision to add multiple developers can work simultaneously in Power Apps, but that need to set up using the GitHub, so which leads to an extra effort. The next difference is attachment control. So that will work fine with SharePoint as a backend, and if we are using custom SQL or any other data source, so that attachment control will be disabled. So workaround to use OneDrive, SharePoint, etc. to store attachment and refer in the Power Apps. The next limitation is Power App can't integrate JavaScript in Power App forms. So Power App has complicated licensing structure. Even each end user who is using the Power App must have a license to use. The next limitation is Power App has limited support for offline functionality, which means making it less suitable for scenarios where users need to work offline frequently. Though we have option with Dataverse to work offline, but that is with the limited feature. The next limitation is difficult to share with external users due to license restrictions. There is a limited support for number of device size and screen orientation. For example, an app required for phones and tablets require 2 versions, one for each device. So in this way, Power App requires users to develop multiple versions of the same app. The next limitation is there is no shared code or function, which means if you have written a piece of code and want to reuse it somewhere else, there is no such provision exist. The next limitation is while Power App support integration with various data sources and services, some integration may require custom connectors. Code debugging is difficult in Power Apps as there is no provision to execute code line by line. So Power App is not suitable for big projects which are having complex requirement. So these all are the limitations of Power App. In the next question, we will understand the benefits of Power Apps. The next question is, what are the benefits of Power Apps. So with Power Apps, you can create apps faster. User can create Power Apps without knowing how to code. That means you can create Power Apps with either low code or no code. You can easily build automated business process flow in Power Apps. So AI has introduced with latest version by which you can make apps to read business cards, you can process receipts, you can process forms, detect any object and recognize text. Even if you draw a simple form on paper and upload it on Power App platform, new AI capabilities will generate forms out of it. Next benefit is introduction of Copilot. So they have boosted the Power App development productivity using natural language. So Power App is easy to deploy and it's having a cross-platform access. Power App reduces the development cost because development is very fast. Being a low-code development platform, it boosts the productivity of the teams. So easily integrate with microservices like SharePoint, Excel, Teams, and Microsoft Dynamics. But also it connects with hundreds of external connectors like Dropbox, Salesforce, Google Drive, social media, and many more. So designing Power App is easy and there is no need to hire a UI UX expert to do your apps. That means no Photoshop PhDs, JavaScript, custom CSS is required. Still you can develop web and mobile apps using Power App. No development environment installation is required because it's a PaaS base as we have discussed earlier. So user can directly develop and deploy and share the code in the cloud itself. The next question is, what type of app can be created in Power Apps? So there are 4 distinct options available in application development. Let's understand by diagram. So these are Canvas apps, model-driven apps, Power Pages, and Power Portals. First is Canvas app. As we have already learned, so Canvas app enable app creation through drag and drop interface similar to PowerPoint. User can easily customize the app by selecting and arranging elements on a canvas. The next one is the model-driven app. So model-driven app have their layout which is determined by the data connection and input within the app. So model-driven app are suitable for scenario which involves complex business logic. The next one is the Power App Portals. So Power Portals are an extension of Power Apps that enables professional developer to build external facing websites. So these websites that can be shared with both internal and external users. So these websites provide secure access to data stored in Dataverse. Next is Power Pages. So Microsoft Power Pages is a secure, low-code, software as a service platform for creating external facing business websites. Whether you are a low-code maker or a professional developer, with the help of Power Pages, you can rapidly design, configure, and publish the websites. So these websites work across web browsers and devices. So here is a snapshot of building Power Pages. As now you can see, both Power Portals and Power Pages provide feature to build external facing website. So then what is the difference in between these two? Let's discuss that in our next question. Our next question is difference between Power Portals and Power Pages. The first difference is based on licensing. So you must be a global administrator or a dynamic 365 administrator or Power Platform administrator to create a Power Portal, whereas for Power Pages, you can just sign up for 30 days trial. So if you try to build Power Portal with your Power App license, then you will receive following error, which says you don't have permission to create a portal in this environment. The selecting environment, try selecting another environment or create new environment. So if it doesn't help, contact your global administrator. The next difference is skills. So with Power Portal, you must have basic knowledge of HTML, JavaScript, CSS or Liquid to customize your site effectively, but Power Pages, you can design your site with no code or low code, and knowledge of HTML, JavaScript, CSS are good to have for further customization. The third difference is the mobile compatibility. So with Power App portals, if you want to open or preview the site on mobile device, then you have to retype the link, whereas in Power Pages, you just need to scan the QR code to use it on mobile device. The next difference is provision time. So website build with Power App portals typically require more time to provision compared to websites built with Power Pages. So this is because Power App portals involve more customization options such as setting up authentication, defining data connections, and configuring portal settings. So additionally, Power App portals often require more extensive customization through HTML, JavaScript, CSS, or Liquid, so which adds to the provisioning time. On the other hand, Power Pages offers a simpler and more streamlined approach to website creation with fewer customization options and faster provisioning time. The next difference is configuration. So in Power App Studio, configuring your website is somewhat limited, and you need to leave the studio to add additional capabilities like identity provider. On the other hand, Power Pages Design Studio keeps everything organized in the workspace, allowing makers to easily add capabilities without leaving the studio. So these all are the difference between Power Portals and Power Pages. The next question is, what are the different ways to submit data from Power Apps? So this task can be executed by using two functions, submit form and patch. So let's first discuss submit form. Submit form is a function used to submit data entered into a form control. So let's see a form example. So when a user fills out a form in Power Apps and clicks on submit button, the submit form function sends the data to a data source, which may be SharePoint, SQL Server, or an external API. So in this example, when user click on submit button, the name, age, and qualification text box value will be saved to the database. Let's see different functions across form. The first is the edit form. So edit form allows user to view and edit data from data source. Syntax is edit form, and within edit form you just pass the name of the form. The next function is new form. So new form function allow user to input new data into a form like interface. Syntax is new form and then form name. The next one is a view form. So this view form function is provide form in a read-only format. The syntax is view form, and then within view form pass the form name. Then we have reset form. So reset function is used to clear the data entered into the form controls and restore them to their default state. The other way to submit the data is patch function. So patch function in Power App is used to modify or create records in a data source. So let's first create the record using the patch function. So for creating record using patch function, we have to use the default function to create new record. The syntax will be the patch, and within patch we have data source, default statement. Within default you have a data source, and then you need to provide the fields which we are going to insert into the database. Let's see one example. So in this example, we have used the patch function, and the data source name is students, and default students means we are inserting new record, and we are providing value for three fields: name, age, and qualification. So here we have type cast age to numeric by using the value function. Let's use the patch function to modify record. So use patch function with lookup function to modify record. syntax will be the patch. Within patch you will have data source name, and here you will provide the code to modify with the help of lookup function, and there the fields which we are going to modify in the database. Let's understand this with the help of an example. So in this example, lookup function will return the record reference where name is Purnima. The patch function will update the qualification of Purnima student, which is provided in the qualification text box. So also keep in mind, to update record in patch function, there must be a primary key in the table. Next question is advantage and disadvantage of using submit form function. So let's first discuss the advantage. Simplicity. So patch function, the submit form simplifies the process of sending form data to data source with minimal coding. The next advantage is automatic validation. Form automate validates form data based on the constraint defined in the data source. So it also helps to maintain data integrity. The third advantage is integration. So submit form easily integrates with various data sources supported by Power Apps. The fourth advantage is error handling. So form contains built-in error handling mechanism such as displaying error message to user if data submission fails due to validation issues. So error handling is very easy. So now let's discuss the disadvantage of using submit form function. The first one is limiting control. So using submit form, we have limited customization options for advanced scenarios. So in those scenarios, we will use the patch function. The next disadvantage is data source dependencies. So submit form function tightly depends on the capabilities and limitation of the underlying data source, which means if underlying data source provides more capabilities, then we have more capabilities on the table while using the submit form. The third disadvantage is complexity with multiple data sources. So when dealing with forms which interact with multiple data sources together, so it becomes more complex as compared to patch. The next disadvantage is debugging challenges. So in case form submission raises an issues or validation error, so it's very difficult to analyze the error and fix that. So it requires thorough testing and debugging, especially when using the form in the large applications. The last disadvantage is the performance impact. So in apps with large dataset or complex validation rules, the performance of form submission process may be slow comparatively as compared to the patch functions. These all are the advantages and disadvantages of using submit form functions. We have got a lot of ground to cover, but remember, it's not possible to cover all 110 interview questions in one video. So don't forget to check out the full course on Udemy for all the detailed answers. If you found these questions helpful, be sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and click the link in the description to enroll in the complete Power App Intro Questions course on Udemy. Plus, there is a 1-month money back guarantee. If you don't like the course, you can get your money back. Good luck with your interview. Thank you.